to the Built Environment Council Committee of October 11th, 2023. I'm Councilmember Liz Vogely. We've got Councilmember Don Schwab and others who I'll introduce in a second. The public is welcome to attend in person or remotely. There will be no public comment during committee meetings. To watch remotely, you may call in or listen to the meeting by dialing 425-616-3920, conference ID 724-887-726#, or hashtag, depending on how old you are. And you can view it on YouTube, and I'm not going to read that. And today we get to hear about the Bike Master Plan implementation, school heights code amendments, and comprehensive plan specific amendments and growth alternatives. And we will hear from Tom Hood. I forget your title. City engineer. That's pretty important. Okay. Yeah, it is. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Vogely. And thanks for having me here tonight to talk about the Bicycle Master Plan. I'm going to start my slideshow here. So for this presentation, a quick little agenda. I'll give you first a background on the BMP as most of you weren't around when we actually adopted the plan. Then we'll get into the meat of the discussion, which is the master plan implementation, including some of the projects that we've been working on both since the adoption of the plan and recently, and talk about a few projects that we have upcoming in the next couple of years. And then I'll finish up with a couple components of the plan, which are the education and outreach efforts as well. So Everett's Bike Master Plan was adopted in 2011. It was a large, thorough effort that involved several city departments. Parks and planning were involved along with public works. It involved numerous administration folks and city council. And really what the master plan was meant to do was to give planning and design guidelines for making bicycling a convenient and viable transportation alternative, really with the goal of encouraging bicycling throughout the city through the development of facilities and programmatic efforts to encourage bicyclists. So that is kind of the overall plan. Essentially, the objectives that came out of the BMP was first we wanted to create a continuous network for bike facilities. Prior to 2011, the city had some bike facilities. They were sort of randomly scattered throughout the city's landscape. And the goal was to both fill in those connections, but also create an overall network citywide that connected origins to important destinations for the bicycling community. Another objective was to provide some design guidelines for implementation based on the different road characteristics that we have. Arterial roadways obviously will get different treatments than, say, a local neighborhood street will. And so we looked at the plan to do that for us as well. And then also it recommended developing an outreach and education program to bring both vehicle drivers and bicyclists sort of together to promote bicycling as a viable alternative.
Yeah, go ahead.
A question on the outreach, and I guess since you just mentioned it, there was, once we started developing some of the lanes, obviously one of the final stages of developing the road on the College Way there, some of the neighbors said they lacked information. Mm-hmm. So I guess one of my questions would be, as we go forward, is there like some outreach ideas for for like the next step in this plan, or have we considered that? I'm sure you've considered
Sure.
it, right?
Sure.
You could just make a few notes about, or statements about that, maybe what's gonna happen in the future.
Yes, for individual project outreach, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll certainly get to that.
Okay, great.
We'll be
Thank you.
talking about the College Fleming project here in a few more
Okay, great. Thank
slides,
you.
and I'll touch on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so this slide here is just kind of a recap of what I've already said. You know, we want to make these connections to the kind of the critical locations in the city. Southwest Industrial Complex comes to mind. It'd be great to connect the interurban trail to the SWIC, and we have projects that we've completed and underway.
SWIC?
Southwest Industrial Complex.
Okay, all right, that makes sense since you just said that, but then I'd never heard it before, so, thank you.
No problem. And then we talked about the suitability, depending on the road, depending on the route, we use different treatments for bicycles. And then the community need, you know, as part of the BMP development, we had over 200 public comments that were received by individuals. We also had multiple bicycle groups involved in the public outreach for the development of the BMP. All of those groups and individuals, you know, gave us their needs and helped us frame what this master bicycle plan and implementation would look like. And since 2011, we've been moving down that path for implementation.
So question for you, so how long did it take, I mean, to develop the plan? It took a while, and there was, you stressed the input. I guess my point being is, for those who might be listening, this wasn't just something that was just done. There were a big effort, and a lot of people and staff put a lot of effort into this plan.
Yeah, really, this effort goes back to 2006 with the comprehensive plan update from 2006, and the transportation element specifically started talking about these issues. And then it was within a couple of years after that that the city launched the BMP program. And, you know, we hired a consultant, we brought in parks, like I mentioned, and public works and the planning department to really take a holistic look and develop a true master plan with council adoption and tremendous amount of public input and outreach. And I think we got what is a very thorough document, and we've been operating on that since 2011. So turning to implementation, here's just a few statistics of what we have done. Building 31 lane miles of bikeways through 19 projects, with 11 more slated to be done in the next 3 years or so. And then the bullet there I wanted to especially mention, because it's really a philosophy and a policy that Public Works takes. Every capital project that we undertake for construction, we look at it through the lens of the bicycle master plan. Is there an opportunity for us to implement the BMP in a project, whether it's a pavement maintenance overlay, whether it's a utility project, a street improvement, whatever it is. And so that's where a lot of these 19 projects have come from over the years. The Madison project is a good example of using the overlay project to bring some bike facilities in.
Question or comment. So I remember talking about it extensively for Casino Way, and the lanes were, our Casino Road, the lanes were decreased in width when there was the overlay project, considering bike lanes. And I'm just thinking of Broadway right now, and I'm remembering somebody asking a question, maybe it was on Twitter, maybe it was in real life, I don't know, but why aren't you making better bike lanes on Broadway? And so I guess that would be my question in a less adversarial voice. How about Broadway and the overlay and all of that that's happening right now?
So you're referring to the overlay that was just finished, or is
Yes.
just finishing up with
Yes.
striping? That is Broadway carries 20,000 vehicles a day. It's at the very top of our principal arterial road hierarchy.
Okay.
It's the second largest street in Everett, next to Evergreen Way. Part of what the BMP does, and we in implementation do, is we look at large streets down to the smallest neighborhood streets, and there's a hierarchy there. And, putting bicycles on the busiest roads is not always as attractive as using some of the smaller streets where we can provide treatments that actually work and keep cyclists safe. Having said that, the larger reason why we didn't do Broadway was because that is being a 20,000 daily trip street, it's also very close to I-5. When I-5 gets slowed down, people spill over onto Broadway and want to use that. If Broadway were reduced in capacity, those vehicles are going to the next logical location, which will be Colby and neighborhood streets and other places where we don't want them, frankly. Nobody wants to get calls about traffic going through their neighborhood streets. And so we need to keep our arterial system functioning as an arterial system and look to some of these other streets for our bicycle routes.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So this slide here is kind of a graphical representation of what we've been doing since 2011 after the plan adoption. I won't run through everything here, but I'll mention some of the larger things that we did. We got the Milltown Trail upgraded on both West Marine View Drive, and then we also did the East Marine View Drive project, and I'll show you a couple photos of those here shortly. We worked out some key safety improvements at intersections with the interurban trail. We put in our first bike signal and protected crossing. That's at California and Broadway. We completed the Riverside Business Park Trail, the Hoyt Bike Corridor. We got that finished, which completed the route all the way from Legion Park down to the interurban trail at 43rd. We built out the Riverfront Boulevard as part of the Riverfront development with bike lanes giving the connection between the Lowell Riverfront Trail and Pacific Avenue. I'll speak a little bit more about it, but we were awarded a bronze from the League of American Bicyclists, and then, as I'll show you here in a few minutes, we've got a few more firsts that we've just finished. The first bicycle boulevard, which is the Fleming Corridor, and also the first buffered bike lanes in the city of Everett, which is the Madison project.
Do you want to say something?
Okay, so here's a couple photos. The Hoyt project uses very traditional bike lanes with slow speeds downtown and limited room. We used those to get us through the downtown area from the north down to the interurban trail. And then on the right, you can see what's known as a shared use path for the Milltown Trail on West Marine View Drive. We also have a shared use trail on East Marine View Drive. These are minimum of 10 feet wide, 12 is preferable to qualify as a multi-use shared path where both pedestrians and bicycles can use those.
If 10 is the least, what do we have here? Is it 10 width?
I'm actually not as familiar with West Marine View Drive. I know on East Marine View Drive it is 10. This looks like it's probably 10 feet as well.
Okay.
So in 2023, we've put in 7.2 miles of new bike facilities between the Madison project and the Fleming project, which I'll be showing a little more of both of those. And then on construction advertisement right now is our citywide wayfinding signage project, which will put in 28 miles of signed bicycle routes throughout the city to direct riders to various destinations throughout the city.
Question on that. If I remember right, you can actually get an app as a bike rider that's going to coincide with our trails. Is that correct?
Yes, we actually do have a terrific website, which I'll be pointing out a little bit later toward the end of the presentation, that has quite a few of those interactive features on it for bicycling. Okay, so now I want to change gears a little bit more and get into some more project level detail about some of the things that we've done recently. We'll start with the Madison Street project. As I mentioned earlier, this was part of the pavement maintenance overlay of this past summer. And it is an east-west connection that was needed to connect the Southwest Manufacturing and Industrial Center, the SWIC, to the interurban trail, along with picking up other routes such as Fleming, which tees into Madison, which we'll get to in a few minutes. One of the cool things that we did on this project was our first use of what's known as EnduraBlend. Essentially, it's the green surface that you see there. It's a polymer treatment that is quite long-lasting and gives a graphical representation of the bike facility, letting drivers and everyone else know that there's something different here in this lane. You'll also see in this photo we have some curbing there near the intersection. That protects against drivers wanting to drift into the bike lane who are going to make a right turn. It keeps them out in their lane where they belong.
Are those movie bendy things new? Like, I know the whole thing is new, but are they newer new?
Yes, those were put in at the end of construction. We had some folks complaining about the white curb not being so visible.
Yes, I
So
remember that
we put up
complaint.
the delineators there to alert everybody. Yes, candlesticks, exactly. Very good. Okay. So now, thanks to our crack communications team at the city, we have a quick video to show you for Madison.
Is it okay if I make a little comment?
You may make a comment.
Tom, I think, knows this, but the most ridiculous part of this project is where I had my bike accident, which I'm in April. I'm still going to physical therapy for my dumb knee I can do many things except for push on it. And if that had been there, there's no way I would have been like, kind of worried take a quick turn into the parking lot because I'm like mixing with traffic. It's super rainy. I don't know if they know where I am or where I'm going, or they can't expect me. And so I tried to like go into the Big Lots parking lot, and then I just wiped out all on my own. No one else was part of it. But so I love that it's there. It's my favorite project. I
I'm
wish
sorry we
it had
couldn't
been there
give
in
it to
April.
you a year earlier.
Thank you for sharing that personal experience.
And thanks again to the city comms team for putting that excellent drone video together. Okay, we're going to switch to the Fleming Bicycle Corridor project. Another first here for the city, the first advisory bike lane. This is on Elk Hill Drive. We're looking from Mukilteo Boulevard up the hill. Due to the grade on this, we decided to go with this advisory lane with some signage that allows bicycles and cars to use this lane. Uphill drivers have to yield to bicycles, or they can go around the bicycles if there's nobody coming downhill. So they essentially have to yield to bikes and downhill vehicles. Another part of the Fleming corridor is the College Avenue section, where we utilized a few traffic islands. This was a traffic calming measure that we put in. College is a fairly wide street, as you can see there, and the combination of the bike sharrows and the traffic islands are intended to help slow traffic down. College is not a really fast road anyway. It's fairly low volume, fairly low speed. But this kind of a treatment can help alert drivers to the fact that bicycles may be in this corridor.
And of course, for everybody listening, this is what Councilmember Schwab was talking about, and about all of the people that were decided to let you know how they felt. And yeah, so I don't know, I'm just bringing it up that, yep, this is pictures of the contentious area for bikes. And
Yes, there's conflicting opinions on traffic issues always. And so we, to the credit of Public Works, when we heard these complaints from folks, we did go out and make adjustments and worked with the residents to minimize the impacts of the islands on them. So, but yes, it is a compromise. So, third project, this was the one I mentioned that's currently out for construction bids right now, the citywide bicycle wayfinding. Lots of signage planned for this. And then a few more of the green pavement markings like we saw on Madison, especially at intersections with the interurban trail, to help alert drivers that there is a trail crossing that they're approaching, and giving, frankly, great directional and distance information to bike riders for the popular destinations around town.
another question. A, how big are the signs, just because I remember that from the TAC, and you can hold off on that. And B, what is the proper way of interacting with the interurban trail when you come across it in a car? Like, that's always confounded me, even in the University District in Seattle. It's like, whoa, there's somebody coming down a trail. Ah! There's no lights. There wasn't any green. There isn't any green now. But even if somebody sees green, I'm thinking about on 52nd, it might be something else. And the school, and there's a crosswalk, and it's curvy, and the interurban trail goes through. And what's a car to do? Just be very watchful? Who has the right of way?
Well, that depends on the crossing. Yeah, every intersection is different.
Yeah.
Those are both crosswalks, so a car should yield and and sort of approaching the crosswalk be?
Aren't they like across the street from EVC and WSU? I'm just saying one lane mile of New Charles.
How do you travel a mile
Yeah,
between those
yeah.
destinations?
Thank you. Because it's like they're across the street.
Maybe it's not connecting to those
No.
two, but connecting to both of them.
It's, and honestly, without the plans in front of me,
Okay.
I'm not sure, but what that's saying is that, that somewhere a mile away is a bike route heading to the colleges, and we're going to mark that 1 mile corridor.
Thanks. I just knew they were across the street, so a little quick look.
So a few of the upcoming projects that we have, you can see there, obviously they're listed. One of the things I want to point out is there is an error on the California Bicycle and Ped Corridor. We're saying construction 2026. That is erroneous. We are not currently funded for construction. Design is just about complete, but we are still seeking construction funding for that. So I apologize for that error.
But it's on the tip, yeah?
Certainly. We wouldn't be designing it if it wasn't. So I've talked about those first three. We also have in the works the 100th Street corridor, which will include buffered bike lanes similar to what we saw on Madison. It's a very similar type road with similar traffic, things like that. And then we also have upcoming both East and West Casino bikeways that are coming in the next few years as part of the pavement maintenance overlay projects. So those are currently in planning. So back to the three that I showed a couple slides ago. The Wall Street connector. This one, hopefully council will be authorizing advertisement for construction bids tonight. This will provide a connection from Everett Station to the Angel of the Winds Arena down Smith and Wall Street. This is an excellent opportunity and an example of a very wide existing road prism that is underutilized for several modes. And so what we're going to do is take some of that width and create pedestrian paths, bike lanes, and additional things like pedestrian level lighting to that to make it a much more friendly, active transportation corridor, while still retaining the needs for the adjacent businesses for access and parking and things. Oops, I'm going to go back for a second. Additionally, you'll see there in the lower left corner of the photo, we'll be installing bike detection at the intersection with Broadway, coming off of Wall Street.
Question on this project. Will there be signage there at the Everett Station? So if I get out and I want to go to the Angel Winds, will there be some sort of direction? Or maybe there's a sign there when I get off the bus or when I'm dropped off or?
We do have wayfinding signage as part of this project.
So,
Yes.
because I think it's a great path, and so if I'm going to use the Everett Station, get out my transportation mode, someday it might be light rail.
Yes.
I know how to walk over there.
Yes, exactly. Okay, Fulton Street. This is a connection project from the California Street bicycle corridor that's currently designed down to the Everett Station area. It'll include new bikeways and a sidewalk, as well as bike detection at Pacific. And I think the next slide, this slide here, this is an example of working within an existing corridor and making bicycles and pedestrian feasibility in light of having other needs in the corridor. For instance, you see the deliveries here. We have one of the blocks especially is heavily commercial. And so one of the ways that we can keep the ability for deliveries is to use a sharrow in that southbound lane. And the reason that works is because we have relatively short blocks, and we also have a slight downgrade for those bicycles coming south to keep reasonable speeds and such. On the other side of the street, we will have room for a bike lane and a standard width sidewalk as well. So that is the plan for Fulton, and that is currently scheduled for construction in 2024. And then we have the California Street corridor, which I've talked a little bit about in the past. A very significant project, provides an east-west link between Highway 2 and downtown. We actually, in addition to this section that goes to Broadway, we have design funding secured for the section of California west of Broadway all the way over to West Marine View Drive. So in the next couple of years, we'll be doing that design as well. And so we'll essentially have a US 2 to waterfront corridor for bikes on California Street. We have, you'll see that we take off and we jog down Pine Street and then use Hewitt to get out to the trestle. That is essentially because of the work that's being studied at the interchange of US 2. Active transportation is a part of that study, and we don't know what that's going to look like in the future, but we have an opportunity on Pine Street with the existing widths to create a shared use path, much like we have with the Milltown Trail, to get people down to Hewitt onto that wide sidewalk and out to the existing connection to Highway 2's trail.
I know that bikes, you just said sidewalk, wide sidewalk, and bikes aren't allowed on sidewalks in Metro Everett. So I imagine that part of Hewitt is not Metro Everett. And so, or did I just hear you wrong and you weren't talking about bikes being on the sidewalk?
No, we're actually, this part of, I believe, is outside of Metro Everett. And so that's why we intended the shared use path. We have quite a bit going on one side of the street with some sight distance issues and things like that. So we wanted to put bicycles and peds on the other side. And so we did that.
And I have a feeling that our colleague would be asking about, who's not here right now, council members Arlingo would be asking about electric bikes, e-bikes, where they fit in, how they fit in, scooters.
Right.
All of the things. I imagine that we all just need to figure out how to pay attention to where we are. But do you have another scenario in your head that could?
You know, the things like e-bikes and scooters, I mean, that's still an evolving situation. And as it continues to evolve, we'll make adjustments. One of the things I haven't mentioned is the upcoming, the future update to the bicycle master plan. By the time we get there, you know, we hope to have some more policy guidance and things like that for those types of transportation choices. But it is difficult because you have, you know, e-bikes that are good for 15 miles an hour and ones that are good for 35 or 40. And those are very different transportation choices that.
And there's also bikes that are not electrically powered, and they have racers that are riding them that barrel into people on just la-di-da-di bikes.
Sure.
So, motorized or not, pay attention. That's all.
So here's a cross-section of what we're doing on California Street. I wanted to point out another first for the city of Everett. You'll notice that we have a 10-foot wide two-way bicycle facility here, known as a cycle track. This is another situation where we have an existing cross-section that's very wide, lots of room to do different things. We do have quite a bit of residences down there. We have a fairly healthy demand for on-street parking, so we are keeping that. But the width allows us to put all of these amenities into the cross-section. So we're looking forward to that. You'll notice the cycle track is both elevated 6 inches above the vehicle lanes, and it also has a 6.5-foot buffer in between. So
And is that back-in parking only? Because that car is backed in.
that is back-in angle parking.
Good.
Okay, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and talk about real quickly the education and outreach efforts that are recommended in the Bike Master Plan. And this is a great coordination between the Public Works Public Information Group and our our active transportation engineer, Christina Curtis, have had a lot of coordination developing these things. All of these are available on our website, the bike site, which is everettwa.gov/bikes. We'll start with the bicycle-friendly driver program. This is a series of videos that have been produced for drivers and cyclists as well to sort of understand each other's modes, rules of the road, courtesy, things like that. So I definitely encourage you to check out the website for those, and you'll see the little bicycle-friendly driver sticker there that you get upon completion of viewing those videos. We also have on the website a number of interactive bike tours. These are really great. They are highly interactive, and they take you on various tours of different things around the city, lots of destinations and sites to be seen. They're very well done, very professional, and I encourage you to check those out as well. And these, like everything else, these are developed to encourage more bicycle use, more of a mode shift towards bicycle use, and things like that that come right out of the Bicycle Master Plan.
So question, do we have a lot of activity on the site?
I believe we do. I don't have numbers, but I know it's very well done, and it does seem to be a popular destination.
Where would I go if I'm going to I know you said /bikes, but what if I can't type and I can only point my mouse? And I go to your city on the website.
It'd be in departments and then Public Works.
Public Works, that has nothing to do with bikes. I'm just being a person that isn't me. But okay, Public Works.
Then transportation engineering. And the very top one on the column there is bikes.
Transportation engineering.
That's the more convoluted way to get to the same
Yeah,
spot.
yeah, okay, well, this is good
But
to
very
know.
good, Jennifer.
She needs to know everything.
That's right.
Okay, thank you, and because I like people to get to where they're going and be able to get there. Even if they're on a computer, not a bike. Hey.
Okay, the last thing I wanted to mention that I talked about a little bit, the League of American Bicyclists Bicycle Friendly Community Award. There are only 19 communities in Washington that have been awarded any level by this association. The city of Everett is one of them. We were awarded in 2021 after quite an extensive application process. I can tell that they don't just hand these out to every community. And so we are really pleased to have that as a feather in our cap. It also gives us a roadmap to getting to the next level, which is silver, which we're well on our way to achieving based on everything I've presented here tonight. And with that, I'm happy to take any more questions you might have.
Yeah, okay, so, the last one was in 2011. The last bicycle master plan was not implemented, whatever, in 2011. And there's been talk of updating it, and
Yes.
that is really happening.
Yes.
And it has to do with the comprehensive plan and the transportation advisory committee.
It's important to understand kind of the hierarchy of our policy documents. The comprehensive plan is obviously the top document. It sets policy. Out of that, specifically the transportation element of the comp plan, falls these other documents, things like the bicycle master plan, the freight access plan, all of those other things related to transportation. And so it's important to start at the top. And so because we're involved right now in the comprehensive plan update and the transportation element of that, that we've just kicked off, we want to complete that, which is, of course, has to be adopted by the end of 2024, as you know. At the same time, though, we want to be able to follow immediately behind that with an update to the bike master plan. And so we're involved in some sort of pre-scoping efforts and discussions right now concurrent with the transportation element to have that ready to go.
And I think I heard you say earlier in this conversation, now I've just forgotten it, that there will hopefully be more data being presented, because I know there's been a lot of updates in like how we live with bicycles since 2011, and like Sharrows are not. Oh, let me verbalize that. Sharrows aren't the best way to go anymore, but they're still being utilized. You know, things like that. So there will be more data, maybe from federal sources, or I don't know.
Yeah, there's, well, first I want to say that Sharrows are still appropriate in certain applications. They are definitely not appropriate in others. Having said that, there has been a lot more guidance documents created since 2011. And so there are more guidelines that can be drawn from to update the master plan with. I'd also mention, though, that, you know, in terms of the overall network and things that were delineated in the original master plan, a lot of that stuff still applies. That's still good information. But yes, so I don't expect this to be a complete redo of the BMP, but a refreshing and updating based on current practices and, you know, where the residents of Everett want to go with it, frankly.
I like that answer. I like many answers, but I thought I'd just mention that one. Councilmember Schwab,
Thank you. Good.
final words on bikes?
I'm good if you are.
Oh, you'll get questions for me, but I know where to find you every first Thursday of the month.
That's right.
Or third Thursday of the month.
Glad to be there.
Thank you, Tom Hood,
Thank you.
city engineer.
Thank you very much.
And you're free to go. Or you can stick around, but maybe move seats, because we've got, you know,
Seats. I'd love to hear what Becky has to say.
I call you by,
Your plug for the comp plan.
I call you by two different first names. They're the same, but which one do you prefer for public?
Becky's fine.
Okay, so we have Becky McCrary to tell us and discuss the right school heights code amendment. Are you doing both 2 and 3?
I am, so I'm here for Yorick to give you a briefing on the School Heights Code Amendment. I'll share with you when that'll be coming with the full council here too. So I want to make clear that the ordinance applies to K through 12th grade only. It doesn't apply to the higher education or technical schools. And then there's about 22 public and 4 private schools in the K to 12, so it does apply to both of them. We've got, what did we say, 22 public and 4 private, and that doesn't mean that a school can't go out and purchase property now. It's very difficult. Property's very expensive, so, but they could acquire some land. So school development, like new construction, remodels, or expansions, they're regulated under the development code in our use matrix, as well as we have a special use section that applies to schools. So schools are allowed in almost every zone except for our agricultural and high industrial zones. The differentiation is in our 2 lowest density zones, which are the residential suburban and residential 1 or R1. They're a conditional use permit, which means they'll go to the hearing examiner with public notice. The hearing examiner will make a decision on the permit. And then in all other residential zones, they're administrative use permit, which means the planning director will make the decision. That also applies, excuse me, I had to get my water. That applies to both of our light industrial zones as well. Let's see. So under the conditional use permit, we apply some criteria, and one of those criteria is that the structures and improvements should be compatible in size, height, location, setbacks, and arrangement of the proposed buildings in the neighborhood. And that's primarily related to light and shadow impacts on more sensitive land uses and less intense zones.
While you're sipping,
Thank you.
question.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk, and we're doing the comprehensive plan and single-family zones, and not necessarily, okay. Would this all change if we just have housing rather than single-family residential zones? You know what I'm saying? So, like ADUs can go into wherever a home is allowed. Am I getting ahead of myself or making sense?
I don't think unrelated.
Okay.
Yep. Because
Thank you.
currently, 18 of our 26 schools are in residential zones. So the majority of our schools are already located in residential zones. That's where the kids are coming from that attend the schools. Let's see. So we also regulate heights. And if you're familiar with our height map, we have a height map. So we don't have height by zone, but it's all located on a map. And for those single-family zones, the heights are 28 feet. So that's as high as a residence could be. And that's also how high a school can be, which you can see can be pretty limiting, especially as you hear these next statistics that I'll share with you.
About what is Lincoln School that is not being used? Do I have the name of it wrong? The historic one.
That's like 2 stories, right? Or it's kind of on a hill?
3.
Is it 3?
I mean, it's not being utilized.
So
Maybe
it might be more than that. But if you think about like, well, actually, literally every single other school,
Well,
they're
the high
all going to be
school.
1 story.
What about the high school on Colby?
Probably predates the height map.
So it is taller than 28 feet, right? I'm trying to get a visual, because what is 28
It's a
feet?
2-story house. That's 28 feet.
With a roof line.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So for schools, it's like probably maybe just 1 story. I mean, yeah.
generally they have a higher ceiling height.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll let you finish another sentence.
So in other heights, they do have more heights allowed. So if we talk about what the purpose and the need is of the code amendment, is that in the regional geography of Vision 2050, the city of Everett has to take 20% of the population for Snohomish County. We have to plan for that. The Office of Financial Management forecasts that between 2022 and 2050, there'll be about 30 new school-age children between 5 and 19,000,
30
Snohomish County.
Snohomish County.
So that means Everett's share of that is about 4,000 to 6,000. So that's an additional, in square feet, it's about an additional 525,000 to 875,000 square feet, just to give you the scale and magnitude of what that means. Given land availability and what we know our needs going to be, we're going to have to come up with some other ways of building school space
Did you say 30,000 more students?
in Snohomish County.
Okay.
So question here is, I'm assuming that we've consulted the school district's plan and what they're planning outlays for school construction and that sort of thing?
Right, they do a capital facility plan update every couple years. The schools were the ones to approach the city about this particular amendment, and so in fact, they've got a couple of schools right now that they're getting ready to submit permits for that are gonna need to exceed those heights. They need to be able to use the property that they have in a more efficient way for the schools. So they did approach the city during rethink zoning, but at that time, it was that particular topic was really outside the scope of that project. So the two schools that are going to be coming in here shortly for permits are Jackson Elementary and Explorer Middle School. So the proposal, go ahead.
No, thank you. It wasn't a question. Just because Explorers Mukilteo School District, but it's in the city of Everett, so of course the zoning is city of Everett, so of course it's going to affect that school district. Okay.
Yes, thanks for pointing that out. So we do have two school districts in the city limits, Mukilteo and Everett. So the code amendment would take off the limitation of heights on the map and that are applicable on the map and make them subject to either the conditional use permit process and the administrative use process to set the height limit. So they have to come in and make their case still, but it'd be done through more of a conditional use permit. The other thing that we're eliminating is proposed to eliminate is for every 1 foot of height above 25 feet, there's a current requirement that they have to then increase their setback by each feet that they're over 25 feet. So then they start to squeeze the site again down.
Is the proposal remove it completely, or is there an alternate?
That would remove it completely,
So what was the first one? The height?
the height.
The height and the setback for the height.
There's still a setback, but it wouldn't add the increased setback.
Okay.
Let's see. So a couple of housekeeping amendments that you'll see would be, we're making sure that the definitions for the higher education and the K through 12 schools are separated, so this doesn't apply to the higher education. And then in our use matrix, just making sure that we're referring back to the special regulations for schools. I can answer any questions, and then let me know too as we go to the full council next week actually for a briefing. Is there any additional information you think would be helpful? And you have a question?
Yeah, so is this by all zoned? I mean, you mentioned 17 and 4 schools, right? Or how many was the total?
There's 26 schools.
Okay, and that included 4 privates. So is this amendment going to affect those particular properties, or is it going to be based on a zone? Or is it gonna be based on educational zoning for K-12? Is that property like remarked on a map?
No, it's still, the schools, the 18 schools are in residential zones. So their
Okay.
zone doesn't change just because they're a school. They're allowed in that zone.
Okay, so I guess is it gonna be an actual change tied to that property? That's,
It's tied to the use.
so this, we're all talking about use permits then?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So I guess make that clear for next week.
Okay?
I don't have anything off the top of my head, but I bet I'll think of something in the middle of a sentence. So,
I should mention that we've only received one comment letter through the Planning Commission public hearing, and that was from the school districts, as well as the Planning Commission has recommended the proposal to the council.
so I just keep thinking of portables, and portables have been around since schools have been around, I imagine. And then I just have the quirky question of I know that they build housing that you can stack on top of each other. Is now it possible to have stackable, to make those? Will that type of thing be allowed, or must it be nicely built, whether stick-built or wood composite, whatever CRT stuff? Is the building materials in question in this reallocation of height?
That's a great question, and I think Yorick and I will get the answer to that and make sure we cover it in the briefing.
Yeah, I mean, that would probably be like the building code rather than the zoning code question, but, yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking of like our tree canopy, if we're gonna build taller schools next to the easement, that, is there a potential to have trees planted? Like we would for any other occupancy, like our apartment buildings, that sort of thing.
They would have landscaping requirements.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and sometimes the taller height allows, different use of the site, you stack them up instead, so, yeah.
Thank you very much for that briefing,
Thank you.
Becky.
Thank you very much.
We got,
And now,
You have 3
you
minutes.
have 1 minute or maybe,
oh,
so.
we're done?
Well, you're basically done. The comprehensive plan specific amendments and gross alternatives, you guys had asked to have some time to talk, and, we don't have time to talk. We can carry it over for your next meeting. It's still very timely. There's months more of work to do, and maybe we'll even have more tools that will help, facilitate the discussion too.
I have 10 seconds.
Oh, please.
We just launched our story map today. I'll make sure you all get a link to that, but it's got a very nice story and interactive map. People can go in and look at their own property and see what their designation is in each of the alternatives. So I was gonna hope to demonstrate that for you tonight, but we'll make sure you have the link.
Yeah, if you could send us the link, that'd be fantastic, yeah. And perhaps we could still have a demonstration, because it would be
It's great, yeah.
videotape
Yeah.
for our public to view that, so that would be good to have it on our next meeting.
Yes,
Great.
please. And just for the public watching that is seeing the agenda, disregard the 4th asterisk.
Yes, yeah,
It's all one sentence, folks.
that's right, yeah.
Well, I guess that's it then. I could go on talking all night. Oh, wait, we'll be back in a half an hour. We'll close.
Yes,
Is there any special closing remarks?
Just say we're
I
adjourned.
close this out. So 1, 2, 3, adjourn.
thank you.